Good morning, this is Diana. I know I have promised y'all a long time ago to show you how to make patches and badges and things like that. Well, today this is what I'm going to show you. What I have on my screen here is thousands of patches that I have made. I designed and made each and every one of these patches. When I first started my business, this is what I did. I made small patches. These are only maybe 1.5 to 2 inches wide by 1 inch tall. These were made for people that did crafts and sewing and stuff, and they wanted a label in their items. Well, that's what I did. I made labels for their items, and as you can see on here, on some of them, I have one of my machines, I have a 12 by 12 hoop, so sometimes I could fit like 40 different patches in here, and each one is an individual patch. When you do multiple patches in one hooping, you still have to put in the color changes for each and every patch. It's not like you can put it on there and put the design for one thing and it'll just go, unless it's all one color. Yes, that you can do. Today I'm going to show you a couple of different ways to make patches. Oops, didn't mean to do that. I meant to close this down. Okay, I'm going to bring up a couple to show you what I'm talking about. This I had made for a person, and they wanted to sew this patch on an item. I made this, the background of it was felt, so the open spaces here, that was going to be the color of the felt. That way you're not having to do a whole lot of stitching. The next one is basically the same thing. They wanted this patch and they wanted to be able to sew it on something, and also it was made out of felt. This is the one I'll be showing you how to make out of felt. This one is my design. This is my 2 stars embroidery. This is not a very big one, but this is just a basic patch. You could make basically anything into a patch. You start out with what you want to make, and you need a border around it, and then you need your design on the inside, and you can keep you can buy just border patches to put your own design in. This one, when you do a patch, you have to consider what it's going to be used for and what is going on the inside of the patch, and if you're going to be doing multiples in one hooping. When you do multiples in one hooping, you're going to get a lot of push and pull in between each and every one of the patches. So the best way to sew a patch like that is you do what I would call a tack down stitch. Would be your first stitch. You would design a stitch to hold the fabric down. You always hoop your fabric and do a tack down stitch to hold the fabric in place. Then you would sew the inside of your patch. Then the last thing would be your border. The reason for that is if you have a lot of stitching in here, this is going to pull in every direction. So when you're finished, if you do this border first, you're going to notice the border is not going to lay nice, straight, and flat. It's going to have little ripples in it. That's why you want to sew this last. I'm going to put this back together. So I'm going to load a couple of these on my USB stick, and then I'm going to show you how I'm going to hoop things, and we'll take it to the machine. Save as. Sorry about that. People bug me all the time. Okay. Now I'm going to bring up the other one and let's do fox. I always use a DST format. It just seems to sew out a lot better. Okay, now I've got everything on my USB. I'm going to take you over here and show you how I'm going to be hooping things. Okay, here's my hoop. And I will generally use a cutaway if I'm going to be using it on the fabric is a cotton or twill. The best fabric to use is a twill fabric. It's a little bit sturdier, and twill is what most khaki things are made out of, and some shirts and things like that. It's a heavy duty fabric and it takes a lot of stitches really well. And I make sure I always hoop it with the cutaway, and make sure it's nice and taut, just like you would if you're hooping anything else. Let me take you over here to the sewing machine, and we will put this on the machine and I will show you how to stitch it out. Okay, now get this put in my machine. Oh, there we go. Gotta wait for it to come up. Alrighty. I guess some people would like to see how it's put in. Just brought up my folder and stick lighting in here is not real good. Okay, I'm going to do my 2 stars ones first, and I'll just click on that, bring it up, and do my color changes. Now this one is just like you would be putting in for an applique. You're doing a tack down stitch. So my first one is a tack down stitch, and I'm going to do it in white so you can see it. Oops. Then the second one is my stitching. And then my last one is going to be my border. And I'm going to do it in black, that way, well, no, I'll do it in white, that way you can see what it's going to look like. Okay. And then we're going to do a trace, make sure it's going to fit, just like you would do anything, any other item. This is a pretty good size patch, so you can see better than just one of the little bitty ones like I usually make. I have made thousands of patches, so it's just kind of second nature some days. Some days. I'm going to push start. I don't like to cut away my fabric after the tack down stitch like you would an applique, because it keeps it more stable and you'll have a much better sew out if you don't cut the fabric off first. Do it at the end. And now it's going to sew my design. And I'm going to pause it here. I don't think you need to hear the noise and watch this sew out. It's going to take a few minutes to do this, and then I'll come back after it's finished. Okay, my inside's done. I also forgot to mention that I always make sure that I have a zigzag stitch going around before I do the satin stitch. This will make sure that it's going to hold your patch all together, and when you go to cutting, it'll be together a lot better. Sorry about this. We all know we have to change bobbins once in a while. Okay, let me get my bobbin changed out here. I'm going to let this finish sewing and then I'll come back to it. Okay, it's almost finished here, and then we'll take it off. There we go. So there is my patch from the front and the back. I also forgot to say, when I do a border around here, I always make sure that this is all at least a 4mm satin stitch. That just makes it look better. It holds better than if you're wanting to sew it on. You have plenty of room here where you could just do a straight stitch or the same color zigzag stitch, and it just looks better with the bigger border. I'm going to unhoop this and hoop the felt and show you how I'm going to do that patch, and then I'll show you how I do the finishings on it. I'm gonna hoop this one. Like I said, on the felt one, I'm using a tearaway because I want to be able to sew this on or something, and it'll just make it look better. You don't have to mess with the cutaway. You can just tear it off. I'm going to hoop this like this. It's a little bit bigger than my other one. There we go. I like making the felt ones better because they're a lot faster. They're easier to make, and they don't take as much stitching. Okay, let's stick this in the hoop. I'm going to bring up my design. I'm going to do fox. And this has two. Do it in red. I'm going to do a trace. And just hit start. I'm going to let this sew out and I will be back. Okay, here are both of my patches. First, on this one I'm going to be ironing. I'm not going to do it, but I'm going to show you how to do it. If you're going to iron a a Heat and Bond. A lot of people use the Heat and Bond Ultra. This would be actually the time to iron it on. You could just cut you a piece and iron it on. I like to burn the back of it to get rid of all of the threads. It also seals the embroidery. And then I would take my Heat and Bond and put a piece over there and iron it on. It's easier to cut out after it's done. You don't have to do it this way. This is just the way I prefer. Then I take my scissors and I cut just as close as I can to that stitching without cutting the stitching. Just like this. Sometimes I will even use an X-Acto knife and cut around it. And there it's cut out. And then I do go back with my lighter and run around the edges. It kind of seals the edges and stuff like that. And with the Heat and Bond, it will kind of melt that Heat and Bond right in here. So when you do put it on something, it'll stay. One caution, when you do use the Ultra Heat and Bond, you will have to use it to iron the applique on an item, because you cannot sew through the Ultra Heat and Bond. It will gum up your machine and it just will not stitch. Now you can use the Wonder Under Light, and you can do that if you would prefer it, and that holds the item in place. Then you can go back and stitch. On the felt one, like I said, I used a tearaway on it, and I just tear it away, because this one is going to be one that is sewn on. Now on this one, I don't know if you can see this or not, but there is a very small satin stitch going around. Now I won't cut right to the stitching. I'm cutting away probably a good 1/8 of an inch, 1/16 of an inch, something like that, away from the stitching. This gives the person a little place to sew if they're going to sew it around. I like using the felt because, like I said, you can use the felt part as part of the design. Like if you were going to sew this on something and they had a white shirt but they wanted the background black, you would have to sew this whole background in black before you could sew the rest of it. So this way, that is part of the design. Now I will take my lighter again, and with the felt it's very easy. It kind of molds. It will melt and mold around your stitching. Gives it a very nice clean edge, and that's all I would do to the felt one. That you can just go right in and sew it on however they want to do it, or you can put the Heat and Bond on there. The felt to sew on is just a lot easier. A lot of people use the little felt patches. I hope this has helped clear up some questions about how to do a patch. I have made several. Like I said, I have made thousands of them. You can also do this is what they call a freestanding embroidery patch. If someone wants to buy just the embroidery and they think, I don't want to buy a whole shirt, I don't really know what I'm going to put the embroidery on or something, you can do this with any embroidery item, as long as it doesn't have stitching that's just thread. I have made several appliques and sold them to people where they've just ironed the applique on their shirt or whatever item they want. But this is how you make a patch, and if there are any questions, just give me a